Good evening, I'm Mahamtawa with the newsmaking headlines around the world. The Council of Ministers discussed in its weekly session the setbacks hindering the sports movement in the country. Tunisia experienced their first free and democratic presidential election. After Vienna talks fail, Iran's nuclear deal is extended to the end of June. And a bomb kills more than 50 in a large crowd at a volleyball tournament in eastern Afghanistan. In our first item, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Subah received at Chief Palace this morning His Excellency the Minister of Health, Dr. Ali Saad Al Abeidi. The Council of Ministers was informed in its weekly session today, which was chaired by His Highness Sheikh Jabir Mubarak Al Hamad Al Subah, the Prime Minister, of the letter to His Highness the Emir from His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of the State of Qatar, which contained the invitation to His Highness to the 35th session of the Supreme Council of the Gulf Cooperation Council, set to convene in Doha, Qatar on the 9th and 10th of December of 2014. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Al Mubarak Al Subah, said the delegation which will accompany His Highness the Emir will be comprised of His Excellency Sheikh Subah Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah, the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister, His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Interior, His Excellency Anas Khalid Al Saleh, Minister of Finance, His Excellency Dr. Ali Saleh Al Amir, Minister of Oil and Minister of State for National Assembly Affairs. The Council of Ministers was also informed of a message to His Highness the Prime Minister from the Prime Minister of Tajikistan, in which he was invited to pay an official visit to the Republic of Tajikistan. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs added that His Highness the Prime Minister briefed the meeting on the outcome of the recent visit to Kuwait by the Prime Minister of Albania, during which ways of boosting relations between Kuwait and Albania were discussed. He went on to say that the Cabinet also discussed the obstacles and setbacks being experienced by the sport movement in the country, which affected the standards of the sport team in some areas, especially the regrettable failure of Kuwait national football team at the Gulf football tournament being held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. This failure caused indignation among the public and harmed Kuwait's sports image. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs said that this failure came as a negative result of accumulated errors and defects which Kuwait Football Federation and its General Assembly bear responsibility for. The Cabinet said effective measures should be taken to readdress these defects to avoid further setbacks which may cause more harm to Kuwait's name. The Council of Ministers also discussed the latest political developments on the Arab and international arenas. His Highness Sheikh Jabir Mubarak Al Hamad Al Subah, the Prime Minister, in the presence of His Excellency the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Subah Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah, received at Chief Palace today His Excellency the Special Representative of UN Secretary General in Iraq, Nikolai Miladinov, and his accompanying delegation on the occasion of his visit to the country. The meeting was attended by the Director of International Organizations, Ambassador Jassim Al Mubaraki. The First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Subah Khalid Al Hamad Al Subah met today the visiting Special Representative of the UN Secretary General in Iraq, Nikolai Miladinov, and his accompanying delegation on the occasion of his visit to the country. The meeting was attended by the Director of International Organizations Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Jassim Al Mubaraki. His Excellency, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Interior, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Subah, received at his office today His Excellency Ambassador of the United States of America to the State of Kuwait, Mr. Douglas Suleiman. The meeting was attended by the Interior Undersecretary, Lieutenant General Sliman Fahd Al-Fahd, and the Assistant Undersecretary for Criminal Security Affairs, Major General Abdel Hamid Al-Awadi. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Interior welcomed the U.S. Ambassador and hailed the strength of the existing relations between the two countries. Talks in the meeting also covered issues of mutual interest. The American ambassador expressed thanks and appreciation to the State of Kuwait for the atmosphere of cooperation which he felt during his service in the country. He described the subjects that were discussed in the meeting as important, adding that the talks proved that the two countries share identical visions and stances. Every year, on the 21st of November, the armed forces in Bangladesh celebrates their country's Armed Forces Day. The celebration this year was attended by a number of political and military figures and attended by the Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs, Sheikh Salman Lahmoud Al-Subah. Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs, Sheikh Salman Subah Salim Lahmoud Al-Subah, mourned today the media figure Rida Al-Faili, the deputy editor of the local newspaper Al-Nahar. In a statement to Kuna, Sheikh Salman said Al-Faili had greatly contributed to the Kuwaiti media. He was loyal and dedicated to his work, raising the name of Kuwait. The minister said Al-Faili was loved by everyone since joining Kuwait's radio in his youth in 1959 at the age of 18 until he took up a number of leading positions. Al-Faili served as head of the news sector at Kuwait TV, director of the technical office at the Ministry of Information, and assistant undersecretary for TV affairs. Sheikh Salman also expressed in his name and on behalf of the employees of the Ministry of Information sincere condolences to his family and members of the Kuwaiti media. Kuwait's ambassador to the United Nations, Jamal Al-Ghanem, said the International Organization for Migration, the IOM, is finalizing preparations for an award ceremony to honor His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Subah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Subah, following the UN honoring of the Emir as humanitarian leader. Ambassador Jamal Al-Ghanem, who is also the Kuwait's permanent representative to the international organizations in Geneva, said yesterday the honoring ceremony would be held at the UN Palace during the opening of the IOM's 115th session. Dr. Abdullah Al-Matoug, Amiri Diwan Advisor, head of the International Islamic Charitable Organization and UN Secretary General's Humanitarian Envoy, will receive the IOM award on behalf of His Highness the Emir. Al-Matoug, who will also meet officials of the international organization in Geneva, said the IOM's honoring comes as a gesture of appreciation to His Highness the Emir's humanitarian role in alleviating the suffering of people in need around the world. Tunisians turned out yesterday to vote in their first free and democratic presidential election. Exit polls suggested that neither of the two leading candidates, the interim president Monsef al-Marzougi and the former prime minister Beji Said Essebsi, was likely to win an outright majority, and that a runoff between them would be necessary. Essebsi took 47% of the vote, with outgoing interim president Marzougi following with 27%. Other polls gave similar figures, indicating that the two men will go head-to-head in a second round set for December the 28th. After Vienna talks failed, Iran's nuclear deal has been extended to the end of June. 6 world powers wanted Iran to curb its nuclear program as a condition for lifting of UN sanctions. More details with Nadia Ali.
International negotiators are set to make a final push to try to reach a deal on Iran's nuclear program ahead of a midnight deadline. World powers, the US, UK, Russia, China, France, and Germany want Iran to curb its nuclear program and to finalize a preliminary deal reached last year in Geneva in return for the lifting of UN sanctions. A senior US Department official said that serious gaps remained and the United States might extend a deadline to reach a comprehensive agreement on Iran's nuclear program. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met his Iranian counterpart, Mohammad Javad Zarif, to discuss the extension of the deadline. Meanwhile, international negotiators appear to be pointing to the possibility of yet another extension to the month-long series of negotiations whose final outcome is expected to have a lasting effect on Iran's relations with the West. In return, the Islamic Republic will receive relief it seeks from international sanctions over its atomic activities. The proposed agreement hinges on the rate at which the sanctions against Iran would be lifted if Tehran agreed to highly specific limits on the amount of uranium it could enrich. The deal could bring about an end to significant sanctions against Tehran and a warming of relations with the West. However, the absence of an agreement would most likely ramp up tensions and could lead to more punitive measures over Iran's controversial nuclear program.
A suicide bomber killed at least 50 people in a crowd of spectators at a volleyball match in eastern Afghanistan yesterday, with 2 NATO service members killed in a separate insurgent attack today. NATO provided no further details, but officials said a bomb attached to a bicycle detonated near a foreign military before 9 a.m. The volleyball match attack, which wounded 63, took place in Patkia province. The bomber entered a large crowd wearing a belt with explosives. No group has yet claimed responsibility for today's attack. Burkina Faso authorities announced a new transitional government yesterday, with Lieutenant Colonel Isaac Zida, who is Prime Minister, appointed as Defense Minister. Colonel Zida was also put in charge of the Energy, Territorial Administration and Sports Ministries. Interim Civilian President Michel Kafando will also be Foreign Minister, while the military will take on the key Interior Ministry according to a decree. Of the 26 posts available, the Army claimed 6. And moving on to the local business news, where Kuwait Stock Exchange ended today's session in the green zone as the weight index gained to 467.55 points, gaining 1.11 points. The price index reached 7,047.27 points, gaining 7,047.27 points, and the KSX 15 recorded 1,135.75, gaining 2.96 points. The number of trades amounted to 3,853 transactions, worth about 13 million Kuwaiti dinars, with around 171 million shares changing hands. And in our final item tonight, the McDonald's Flying Start Triathlon kicked off, an annual race that aims to help spread triathlon in Kuwait and strengthen the active lifestyle in the country by offering the best opportunity to test their fitness and an equal opportunity to challenge people who practice at all levels. Organized by Provision Sports Management Company, the race is open for all who can swim, bike and run. Open to individuals and teams over 2 main distances, sprint and Olympic. Sarah Faris Globe was in Khiran with this report.
Organized by Provision Sports Management Company, the 7th edition of the Flying Start Triathlon kicked off in Kuwait with 2 levels to the competition, the sprint and the Olympic, with the sprint level featuring a swim of 750 meters, a cycle of 20 kilometers and a run of 5 kilometers. As for the Olympic level, it consisted of a swim of 1,500 meters, a cycle of 40 kilometers and a run for 10.
This is the 7th edition of this event. The event is all about 3 sports combined. You start with the swim and then the cycle and the run at the end. We have 2 categories and 2 genders as well, female and male. The interesting part of this event, we started it in 2010 with only 28 participants at that time, and today we have almost 400 participants, which is really a great achievement as an organizer, even as a sport in Kuwait. I'm really glad to be here. You know, you can see the atmosphere here. It's not only for professional athletes, it's for everybody.
Held on an annual basis, typically every October, the race was first organized in 2010 as a way to motivate the 3 club members to continue training for triathlons.
The objective of this event is mainly to promote healthy lifestyle, and we're trying to really promote and we change the sedentary lifestyle and the obesity and diabetes with this such activity. And anyone can take part of this event. It's not needed to be qualified or anything else. So this is what we're trying to do as a company. And of course, thank to all our supporters and partners who's making this happen. Without them, definitely we can't make it. And of course, there is a big part for the police. They did an amazing job, and it's never happened before, closing the roads, which is really amazing. So thanks to them as well, and to all the media and KTV2 as well, you know, to cover, because you know we can really affect, or this small number of people, but you have the bigger exposure to spread the message of a healthy lifestyle and outdoors. People came here today. It's 5 a.m., which is, you know, in Kuwait it's kind of impossible, and we started the race at 7. So we're happy with all this development and to be the leader in promoting sport events and healthy lifestyle in Kuwait.
What distinguishes this race is the unique organization, from planning to execution, as the team ensures that every detail is tended and executed within a set time frame. Provision Sports Management uses state-of-the-art racing and sports equipment, which add exceptional value to all their sports events, including their biannual triathlon series. Since 2010, the Flying Start Triathlon has gained popularity and recognition, a purely Kuwaiti initiative that provides the community with a continuous goal to train and stay fit. From Al Khiran area, this is Sarah Globe reporting for English News.
For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Well, with that, we conclude our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant time. I'm Maham Tahawa. Before we go, we remind you once again of our main top stories. Have a pleasant time and good night. The Council of Ministers discuss in its weekly session the setbacks hindering the sport movement in the country. Tunisia experienced their first free and democratic presidential election. After Vienna talks fail, Iran's nuclear deal is extended to the end of June. And a bomb kills more than 50 in a large crowd at a volleyball tournament in eastern Afghanistan.